Hey everybody, this is Harvey Sluggo Wasserman back for the 227th Green Grassroots Emergency Election Protection Coalition Zoom call. Glad to have everybody with us. It is a momentous day. We're going to be talking most of the first hour about the magnificent No Kings rallies that occurred over the weekend. According to many estimates, there were more than 5 million people at more than 2,000 locations in the United States and around the world. But unfortunately, we also have just gotten a report that this horrendous bill has passed the U.S. Senate, which is far more than a budget bill. It's a fascist takeover bill, and we're going to have to get deep into it in the second hour. But we also want to talk about great strides that have been made at the Pacifica Radio Network, the firing also of a nuclear regulatory commissioner, which I believe is unprecedented. And but we're going to start today with the terrible shootings in Minnesota. We have a Minnesotan with us, the great HEDY TRIPP, who's been with us many times before. We have starting with 54 people. It is 2 p.m. Pacific time, a little after 5 p.m. Eastern time. But I am wearing the shirt that I wore to the No Kings demonstrations in New Jersey over the weekend, and we will talk. I want to do a show and tell with everybody who went or may not have gone to rallies to fill in everybody on the joyous occasion of. We may be able to look at some of the pictures of the so-called rally that Trump held in D.C. that apparently nobody showed up for. So we're going to cover all of that. It'll be a joyous first hour or so, and a good talk about Pacifica, but we're also going to have to deal, as usual, with the difficult stuff. The number one thing being the ability, the willingness, the power of the Democratic mainstream of American life to protect the upcoming 2026 election. Many people are assuming that there will be a retake of Congress in 2026, but the evidence that the 2024 election was not necessarily stolen, but certainly bought, is mounting. And unless there is a meaningful and effective election protection movement going forward, the outcome of the 2026 election is already guaranteed, and it's not a good one. So we're going to get to that. But meantime, let's deal with the horrific occurrences in Minnesota. HEDY TRIPP, who's been living in St. Cloud, what can you tell us from Minnesota about what the feelings and the impact of this horrible killings will be on the people of the state?
Well, first, I'm not calling from Minnesota. I'm on the other side of the world. Right now, it's 5 a.m. in Penang, West Malaysia. I am here on a scholarship writing my memoirs. But it was just shocking to hear about that. Not only did the gunmen kill the people, they also killed her dog, Gilbert. She had been training dogs for veterans. So it's just horrible. And for me, the place where it happened is only about half an hour from where my children live, my adult children live, and my grandchildren. So, well, I don't know, Harvey. Um, it's sort of no longer shocking anymore. It's like, what's next? My feeling personally is that do I really, as an immigrant, do I stay in the US anymore? My husband is African American. Does he stay in the US anymore? Is it dangerous for him? Is it dangerous for my family? Here in Malaysia, let me just add that folks are um, very puzzled as to how Trump even got into office. How could people vote for him?
Well, I think we're going to be dealing, and these calls, which started in April of 2020 to deal with election protection, um, that's the issue now. We have seen on No King's Day that the people of the United States and around the world do not want a dictator. I mean, enough of this term authoritarian, which is pretty mealy. This guy said he was going to be a dictator, made it very clear, and he's
Yeah.
acting as a dictator. And but he did not win legitimately the 24 election, and people are not talking about it. And there's this assumption that somehow in 26 that everything's going to be reversed. It is not a safe assumption, even though we had apparently 5 million people out in the streets. And I'm wearing, by the way, I went to the demonstrations in Teaneck, New Jersey, and many of you, we want to hear from you where you went and what did you wear and all that stuff. But I went at 10 a.m. in the morning on in Teaneck, and there were 400 people there. I came back at 1, and there were still 300 or 400 people there. So, and this is what I was wearing. I got the award for best dressed. This is my Abby Hoffman shirt. But Hetty, as a Minnesotan, at least all these years, I know you said that Keith Ellison made a very eloquent statement today. Maybe you can refer us to that.
I put it in the chat way up in front, the link. So, he spoke of nonviolence. He spoke of hope for the future, that if we work together, with the obvious evidence that thousands and thousands of people in America do not agree with Trump. But remember, he's a Muslim. Ilhan Omar was also on the list that the gunman had. So looking at, dangerous times. And I am in a Muslim country, by the way. Malaysia is a Muslim country, and they actually don't allow Israeli citizens to come in. Just an aside.
Well, Keith Ellison has been on our calls a couple times. He is the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota. I will note that there was a news item today that the president, Donald Trump, in the wake of the shooting of a woman who had been the Speaker of the
Oh,
Minnesota House of Representatives, and her husband were killed. And their neighbor and his wife, John Homan, who's a state rep, and his wife Yvette were shot but not killed. This guy dressed himself as a cop. And I guess if there's one takeaway for our personal safety, apparently cops always, and if they're gonna knock on a house's door of a house, are
no.
in pairs. And this guy showed up alone. I would not have known that, beforehand. This
Yeah, he
also,
had a car. He had a car that looked exactly like a police car with the lights and everything, and he was dressed in gear. So yeah, you know,
right. And before he went to 4 other houses. He shot people at 2 houses, and
right.
he went to 4 other houses. I guess you would know, Hetty, this looked like a fairly upscale suburb, Brooklyn Heights, yeah?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But also there are a lot of immigrants there, especially Hmong folks, Hmong from Laos. So legislators that I know all have police security detail. They wrote about that. So they felt they felt at least that they were being protected by the police after the incident happened.
Well, apparently now he shot these 2 people, the Homans, John and Yvette Homan, and then he went to the house of Mark and Melissa Hartman
Yeah,
and killed them.
shot them too. Oh,
Right.
yeah.
But then he went to 4 other houses.
Mm,
Yes, the news reports say that he went to four
okay.
other houses. He also went to a bank and he went to a bus. And apparently he tried to buy a motorized scooter and a car from somebody. And in the middle of all this, he sent a text to his family. He has a family, this guy, a wife and children. And he sent a text saying, quote, "Dad is going to war." And they then, based on the text that he sent them, after he did these killings, his wife and children, I don't know how many there were in a car waiting to go when he would return with passports, guns, and $10,000 in cash. This is the depth of this. So this guy is alive, and I'm sure that many people who are progressive and are pro-choice are going to oppose the death penalty in this case, as will I. I'm sure many people on the call. My feeling is that they should put this guy in a cell for the rest of his life, and that, assuming he did it, by the way, I mean, assuming he's guilty, and that one wall of his cell should be a video screen. And he should be forced 8 hours a day, 6 days a week to hear statements from the families of these people. And and let him, I'm sure somebody's going to say that's cruel and unusual punishment, but it's shy of the death penalty. Why not allow the people to speak their piece and maybe even have dialogue with this guy for the rest of his life? That
Harvey, if it may be seen as an isolated incident, and perhaps it is, but the atmosphere that surrounds this is absolutely political. And that's what Governor Walz said, one of the first things he said, that it was politically motivated. I mean, this, you can describe this gunman as crazy, but it's politically motivated in this atmosphere. So Minnesotans are, I think many of them are either in a state of shock or in a, I'm not gonna say
right.
any bad words. So yeah.
Well, it's very clear this was political. I was very glad that Governor Walz
Yeah.
immediately identified himself. And not only that, but apparently, I don't know which house of the Minnesota legislature is 67, 67. And I believe that
Mhm.
Senator or Rep, I don't know which one she was, Hartman, was a swing vote, and that
Mhm.
this will change the balance of power in the
Mhm.
Minnesota legislature. But this guy, very clear, according to the news reports I've seen, there were very political statements. They were pro-life, so-called. Isn't that ironic? Here's this guy's killing people as a pro-lifer, which makes no sense whatsoever. And he had flyers from the No Kings demonstrations, apparently with the intent of going to them or one. So here we are. If
Yeah.
anybody wants to pipe in, I know we've had at least one other caller
Yeah,
from.
they were afraid that he would. Yeah.
Well, he
Very
had
Are
pro.
there anybody in the call that is from Minnesota,
well, he
Harvey?
did also, by the way, have two AK-47s apparently in his car. I mean, God forbid he'd have showed up at a rally with his machine guns, which could have happened. The shootings he did
Yeah.
were at 2 or 3 in the morning. I mean, can you imagine having a knock on the door from someone claiming to be a cop at 2 or 3 in the morning?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Anything else from a Minnesota perspective, Hetty?
Uh, no, Harvey, you've said it all. Thank
Okay.
you.
Well, folks, it's a hell of a way to start the call, but out of respect for Mark and Melissa Hartman, Hortman, we are deeply, deeply moved. There was a statement I read from the congresswoman who was shot I wrote her name down, but Gabby Giffords. There was also, of course, the burning of the home of the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, on a Jewish holiday. You know, so how do these people call themselves Christian? I have always been a fan of the biblical Jesus. I feel I've met him many times at peace rallies. God forbid, what would happen if the actual Jesus turned up at a MAGA rally and started preaching the Sermon on the Mount? Turn the other cheek, love thy neighbor. They'd rip him to pieces. And I don't know how people call themselves Christians and do this kind of stuff. I can't speak. I wasn't born a Christian. I'm not a Christian, but maybe someone who is can speak to this. I don't get it. There's 83 people with us. LYNNE FEINERMAN, do you want to jump in and speak to this, please? LYNNE, are you there?
Yeah, hi.
And then Mimi.
Yeah, sorry. Um, I put a link in the chat, and then Stephen made a lot shorter. Thank you, Stephen. That is a piece from ANDRA Watkins, who grew up in the moral majority movement, Jerry Falwell's movement, and managed to escape. And she is running down the real stats for us, vis-a-vis just how many of these people there are and how we can estimate what they might do. There are a hell of a lot more Christian nationalist potential killers out there than we would like to think. The stats are supportive, even from people who are on the fence one way or another. So please check out Andra's audio link that I put in the chat. Thank you.
Now we had Andra on with us, didn't we? LYNNE, thanks to you.
Yes, we did. It wasn't thanks to me, and that's how I did a program with her.
Oh, okay.
Someone else introduced her on GREEP.
Okay. Well, again, as someone who was born Jewish, but has always been a fan of my fellow Yeshua, otherwise known as Jesus. Jesus, by the way, is a Greek name. That's what Paul called Jesus, and Christ means Savior, apparently in Greek. But it was Paul who named him. His initial name was Yeshua. And whatever I've read about him, this is so far removed from anything the biblical Jesus would ever think of doing. I just don't get it. Mimi, please, we have 85 people with us. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Sluggo. I wanted to let you all know that I am a what they call a cradle Episcopalian. I was born into the Episcopalian Church, and but it's unfortunately it's these Christian nationalists that's causing this trouble, and they're also called accelerational. No, I'm not going to get the word wrong. Accelerationists, because they want the world to end so Christ can come. I mean, they're completely off their rocker, and so we have to be very careful with these people. They're a part of white supremacy as well. So it's essentially Christian nationalist white supremacists, and they've hooked into many people. They prey on people like who've lost family members and so forth, and that's how they all get started. So and they're not, living by the words of Jesus, love thy neighbor and all that. It's just really awful. So I just wanted to put in my 2 cents about that, Harvey. And yeah, it is real head scratching. It's really awful, and it gives Christians a bad name. And all Christian, what would you call it? Churches are losing people because of these crazies. Thank you so much. I hope that cleared things up.
Episcopalian, the Bushes were Episcopalian, I believe.
Yes. Yes, it's a pretty waspy thing. It's a very New England thing, and that's where I'm from. So
yeah. And you guys are quite, you're basically liberals in the Christian pantheon here.
Yes.
HW was very much an Episcopalian, and but I just I don't see how it's Christian.
I agree.
It's a mystery to me.
I agree.
And,
Well, there's also, I'm so sorry, there's also the UU churches, which are very social justice oriented, the universalist churches. And there's I'll say this last thing and then I'll be quiet.
no,
But
you're fine.
Robin Williams has this hysterical quote saying that Episcopalians are thinking Christians, and that's all I wish to say, unless you wish to call on me again.
Well,
Oh, yay, UU.
Robin Williams had the greatest. Robin Williams did a stand-up where he pretended to be one of those televangelist preachers who is demanding money from their followers, and he says, "The word audit does not appear in the Bible." I always love that line. Mike Hirsch, and then we're going to continue. We're going to get to the No King's Day, but we're certainly obliged to start with this. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say real quickly that this is not Christianity. It is a cult. It's a cult that, as Mimi just mentioned, they reach out to people who are bereft and depressed, feel left out. And what they do is they provide them an inviting kind of family situation, but it's like the Moonies, it's like any other cult. And what they do is they indoctrinate people into an us versus them mindset. And they say Jesus wants you to kill people for life. It makes no sense. So don't question yourself, Sluggo, for not being able to figure the logic there.
Right.
It really isn't logic. It's all about power. It's about hatred. It's about in-groups and out-groups. And fundamentally, it's a cult. And that's why Trump's been able to tap into this. He's a typical cult leader. He behaves just like any other cult leader.
Well, to quote another guy who used humor, I mean, Abby Hoffman, whose shirt this is in honor of, I gave a speech to a Catholic women's college, and he explained that the difference between on abortion between Christians and Jews is that in the Jewish religion, the fetus is not considered human until it graduates from medical school. But, be that as it may. All right, we've got 91 people with us. We are going to we're going to have to deal with the fact that the Senate has passed this horrendous bill, which we're going to have to deal with the details with, and we're going to get
That's out of committee. I don't think it passed. I think it's just come out of committee. I'll put on the
all right.
screen. Let's see here.
Okay, I hope you're right.
Can I say something super quick? I've been
Mimi,
unmuted.
yes,
This is
please,
Mimi
go
again.
ahead.
Okay. So some of you know I have lived in France. I lived for a long time in France. So I want to remind everyone that most people of the monotheist religions are moderates. So these are extremists. And unfortunately, they exist in every religion. So that's an unfortunate thing. And also something I learned through volunteering with Amnesty International and other groups is that and I'm sorry, this is a man thing, is that it's something like 30% of all men are violent. So while for women, it's like 13. So that's why most serial killers are men, etc. So unfortunately, we just have to do better with the violence in our country, in our communities. Thank you so much.
It's just inexplicable and terrifying, and God knows. You raised one more point, and we are a little bit random here, just among other things to keep it interesting. There was a Fox commentator over the weekend who lit into Simone Biles, the great gymnast. And by the way, there's a documentary about her on Netflix. She's a wonderful person, Simone Biles. Tiny, barely 5 feet, if that. But she's the greatest gymnast that ever lived. And somebody on Fox were ranting about trans people. And they said, directed at Simone Biles, they said, you could never have done what you have to do if you would have had to, what you've done, if you'd have to compete with trans people, men. And it came back, and this is just absolutely brilliant, and people should look this up. then in the world of gymnastics, there are things that Simone Biles does that no man could ever do. You know, the presumption on the anti-trans community is that, well, men are bigger and stronger, and so, trans men slash women get an unfair advantage. But they showed documentary footage of men trying to do what Simone Biles does, and it's hilarious because it's absolutely impossible for men to do about half of what Simone Biles does as a gymnast. So I thought I couldn't miss the opportunity to throw that in. Thank you, Mimi, for bringing that up. Daniela, and we're going to start to talk. I'd like everybody, if you're game and if it's fun for you in this first hour, before we get to Pacifica and election protection issues, to share your experiences from No King's Day. 5 million people turned out, at least throughout the U.S. and the world, for No King's Day. HEDY, was there a No King's Day march in Malaysia? HEDY TRIPP, do you know?
No, I know there was in Japan, but
Oh,
I
yeah, but
didn't see any notice on Malaysia.
all over Europe there were, but anyway, okay. Daniela Giuseppe, and then we'll start to take your testimonies on No King's Day. Go ahead, Daniela.
Right. I'm going to give my testimony on what I did on No King's Day, but
let's hear it.
and my name is Daniella Giuseppe, and
Okay.
the first woman with an Italian name to be widely published in the history of the United States by big presses, especially on social justice issues. And I'm 84 years old, and we knew each other long ago when we worked against the Tomahawk missiles in New York Harbor.
Yes, we did.
So, and also shut down Indian Point. But I wanted to say that the latest research on the brain shows that women literally have a larger hippocampus where empathy and sensation of emotion and memory of emotions are stored. But of course, femininity and masculinity is on a scale from 1 to 10. So there are some men who are more feminine and some women who are more masculine. But generally speaking, a female brain does contain more ability at empathy. That's science regarding the size of the hippocampus. But I had a wonderful day. It was raining. I went to the Soma Action in South Orange, small town. We
South
had
Orange,
well over
what state?
15
Are you in New
in
York?
New Jersey,
Oh,
well
okay.
over 1,500 people in a small town. And my poem, Liberty and Justice, was selected to win a contest to begin the rally. So I read my short 1-minute poem in the rain to retrieve Flag Day. And it was such a loving meeting with people of every kind and every background. And also, let me shut that off. People of every background, people of every persuasion, little kids, big kids, mothers, grandmothers. I'm 84. I'm a grandmother. But it was just a beautiful time with singing. I read my poem. I got rave reviews and applause. And I felt so good at 84 that because I've been a poet all my life. I have an American Book Award as a poet. And I was thrilled to have my little poem based on Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I can say it if you want. It's 1 minute.
I do. Let's come back to it. I want to hear it. Let's let other people chime in and get
Okay,
this going.
it's just 1 minute if you
Yeah,
want.
and we'll come back to your poem.
Okay, very
We will.
good. Anyway, we had a great day, beautiful rally.
Well, wonderful. Wonderful. I'm almost 83, but in my case, that's my IQ as opposed to my age. Nina, we'll come back to you for that poem. We definitely want to get it. Nina Singer. Nina, and then Sandy, and then Dr. Nancy. Nina Singer, go ahead.
Yes. Hi, I'm here. This is Nina calling in from West Palm Beach, Florida. Went to a No Kings rally. Oh my God, the whole state of Florida came out in force. We had almost 3,000 people. It was just amazing. All ages, families, kids, every community that's being attacked by this administration was there with the signs, with the hats, with the shirts. Everybody was singing and dancing. And even we're on the intercoastal, so we had a little Trump flotilla parade going by honking the horn. Nobody flinched. Nobody said anything. Nobody booed, nobody cheered. Everybody was in solidarity. It's just all in one, talking to people from different communities. It was just amazing. Everybody was in agreement, and it's just, amazing. We went out basically in opposition to our governor and Trump against his little rally, birthday, whatever you call it, in Washington. And this is just amazing. And I'm just so amazed. I'm just so amazed.
Well, good for you, Nina. Thank you. And were there any alligators at your march?
No, no, no. It was
Okay.
wonderful. No
Glad to
gators,
hear it.
no
Okay.
Seminoles or gators.
Oh, no. Well, the Seminoles, the Seminoles are still there. The Seminoles in South Florida are the one of the few tribes that were never conquered. So, and now, and now they own a casino and run the state. So there you go. We have Jan Goodman with us. Jan, if you will let me know if Terry, your daughter, is going to join us, that would be great. And we're going to talk with you in a bit about Pacifica. Sandy Bolzenius in Columbus, Ohio. Sandy, were you out?
Oh yeah. 2 days, 2 days. The first day we have a huge pride parade. I think it's one of the biggest in the Midwest.
It is. You've not lived until you've been to one of the pride parades in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah,
It is
right.
the greatest parade that I ever go to is the pride parade in Columbus, along with the Doodah parade.
Yeah, well, it started to get taken over by the corporate people, but I think a bunch of them left AEP, Ohio, and things because of DEI. So it's like good riddance. But anyway, the two things I want to make clear is that what's so cool is that we work with each other. And the other thing is how many people are getting involved that weren't before. For instance, on Friday, 5051 held a big conference, a big rally because they knew that Pride would be on the next day. And so they were very, flexible about that. So it was a big one on Friday. I spoke at it for Move to Mend. If you don't know Move to Mend, I'm going to put it in the link. You please sign for it. And it was huge. I don't know how many people, 700, 800,000. I don't know, at the State House. And then the next day, Pride was all day. And because of all these things happening around immigration, you had even more people. They decided, Indivisible and all these groups decided, let's go ahead and have parades, rallies everywhere anyway. So there were parades from 8:30 till probably 6 or 7 at night in Columbus, all these different suburbs. No way to keep count because there were so many, and it's bringing out so many people, my family in particular, who just don't do these things normally. I get pats on the back and everything's great, but now they're out there making their own signs, going to more than one rally. So that's it. I'm just really very happy.
I grew up in Columbus. I lived there, God knows how many years. And because of the name and Ohio State football and all the other stuff, the whole world thinks of Columbus as this sort of middle American Mayberry, allegedly right-wing community, which is what I grew up in the 50s. But in the 80s, Columbus transformed, and it is about the gayest place I've ever been, Columbus, Ohio, which is mind-boggling. Is that a fair whatever, Sandy?
I don't know. We're all in it together. I guess how we're doing it. So I guess so, but it's really, we're all working together.
You haven't lived until you've been to a Doodah parade in Columbus, Ohio, but nonetheless, Sandy Bolzenius, thank you for checking in. Dr. Nancy in Santa Monica.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to everyone who attended some of the marches. I love looking at the pictures. I didn't make it. I'm suffering from some leg problems, but I wanted to say that I'm a neurologist, and the first brain studies that came out, the functional brain studies that came out on functional imaging, were to show that taxi drivers in England have very large hippocampi. It's the place where you develop new thoughts and you learn. So people who don't have hippocampi have no memory. They cut them out for seizures sometimes. But I want to remind everyone that nobody's female or male the first few weeks of gestation. And I really strongly, I know people are on different sides of the fence and no one can prove it, but parts of your brain grow differently according to what you practice. And Harvey, at one point you asked me to do a presentation on the difference between Democrat and Republican brains, which I can do. I haven't prepared it, but I wanted to make a big deal of that your brain does what you practice. And for some reasons, there are environments among the fundamental Christian groups that emphasize more of the judging other people than remembering that, I love your term, the biblical Jesus taught you to love first and not to be judging. And that's really.
Well, let me ask, this is, I got arrested with Benjamin Spock in 1980, and his A Baby in Child Care, which came out in 1947, which was the best-selling book in the history of the world, except for the Bible and the a Boy Scout manual. But he said that the one thing that parents must do is to be physically affectionate to their children. Now, would you say that that affects the growth of any part of the brain?
You don't want to listen to me for the next 2 hours.
Okay. Well, I would.
Some people overdo that. A
Okay.
lot, modern parenting is very much centering on that, which is changing development a lot.
Okay. Well, we'll have 2 hours at some point, Nancy. You and I will go out to dinner, and you can run it by me because I've always been interested in it. That's the one thing I knew nothing about parenting, but I've raised 5 daughters, and the one thing I knew to do was to make sure they know I love them. And they seem pretty empathetic. I will say the only campus I know about as opposed to the hippocampus is the Ann Arbor campus, which I love. And actually, the campus where I taught is right behind me on the screen. That's Capital University in Columbus, Bexley, Ohio. David Sonneborn, please. We've still got 90 people with us. And Jan, if you've got Terry with us, let me know, please. David
Go ahead.
Sonneborn,
You
can
can
I get you
unmute now.
unmuted? There you go.
Okay, just wanted to add that the No Kings rally that I attended, 8,000 people was in a
Wow. Where?
park at it's called La Palma Park in Anaheim. And since this is election protection, I took with me petitions for new people to sign the petition for SB 42, which is going through the state legislature of California, and then it's for public financing of all California election campaigns.
Wow. What's the number again?
SB 42. It's gotten through the Senate already, and it's in the Assembly.
All right. Well, as my mother would say, from your lips to God's ears, let's hope it proceeds. We've got another Californian. Lynn, I'll come back to you. Susie Goldmacher, you're in Berkeley.
I'm actually in Oakland. There were 10,000 people who marched in
God.
Oakland. There was also a protest in Dublin, which is a burb, to protect the jail from becoming an ICE facility, and a bunch of my friends went to that. And there was a huge thing in the city in San Francisco. I don't have exact numbers for San Francisco. And there were almost 700 of us in front of a building in Oakland where seniors live, and a whole bunch of us went to that. And that was pretty thrilling. There were people honking and yelling. It was incredible. The Bay Area had thousands of us in the street. It was great.
I'm surprised anybody in the Bay Area was not in the streets, actually.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people were in the streets. It was pretty great. It was pretty great. It was bigger than the last one.
All right, so here's something I want to ask, and then Bill Yohe will get to you. we've talked on these calls about passing out business cards with barcodes on them, and my rally in Teaneck, New Jersey, nobody did that. Was anybody passing out any fleet leaflets or business cards with any kind of contacts at any of your rallies? Susie, did you notice that? And no? Okay, well, was it a missed opportunity, or is it just a dead end that we've come up on? I don't know. Steve, thank you for that, Susie, and stay with us, please. Steve Caruso, did you want to say anything, or do we want to show pictures, or what do you got?
Yeah, it all kind of flew over my head there for a second, but yeah, that we had about 1,000 people in Licking County, a lot across the
Really
range in
quick, I
age.
just want to say Terry is with us. I don't
Oh.
know where she is, but she has a limited amount of time, so we're trying to find her and get her on the mic so she can talk for a little bit.
And
Okay.
Hetty has had her hand up for a while. She wanted to get back in and say something. You picked on her for something, but she didn't get her.
Hedy, go ahead, from Malaysia and Minnesota, by way of Minnesota, or vice versa. Oh my God, look at that. Hedy Trip,
You're
are you there?
muted.
She's muted. Okay, I don't see her.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, can you see the screen?
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. That's Minnesota. So I thought I would end with that. That's my family. That's Ruth Sherman, George Sherman's daughter, Harvey's good friend. But that's the state capital. And I think seeing this picture for me, not being in Minnesota at this time, is like, my family will continue their actions. I mean, look at them. I mean, I'm in tears right now. Cats, not kings.
That's
And my
that's
little one. Yeah.
wonderful, Hetty. We do
Yeah.
have Terry. I renamed her Terry.
Terry, go ahead, please.
She's got her hand up.
Go ahead. We're going to Terry. We'll get to Bill, Lynn, Tatanka, Daniela again. But Terry, Terry.
Hi, I'm here.
Okay, we can't see you. Do you have a camera?
I do, but it's been disabled.
She needs to be co-hosted first.
Yeah, we've been
Okay.
trying to work on
I can
that.
start talking while
There
you
you
guys
go.
figure it out.
Well,
Go ahead.
briefly, go ahead.
Thank you.
Terry was actually shot.
Let's not be dramatic.
Well, let's be truthful. You were. Go ahead. Tell us.
Yeah, so my name is Terry. I do jail support for protesters in LA, and I have been since 2020. So I the other day I was at a protest, and I was
Well, your
I go to
protest was in
about-
downtown LA, right? You're
Yeah,
in
downtown LA. This was right between the federal building and the LAPD jail. And I was holding up a sign that basically said jail support LA. This is the buddy system, which is our system for making sure that people don't slip through the cracks. So they have an offsite buddy, they have our phone number, and they give us a call if they don't hear from their buddy in a certain amount of time. So we know to check for them in the system. So, the LAPD's strategy in the way that they approach protesters, which changed in June of 2020, about a month and a half after the start of the George Floyd protests, it was the same week that Jail Support LA started. So their hatred for us is very intertwined in their violent response to protesters. So they shot me in the wrist because I had that sign up. So, and I mean, it's not just that it's this extreme repression of freedom of speech and assembly that we're seeing all across the country. We also have, this very intentional attempt to dissuade young activists from ever protesting again. In June of 2020, they switched from doing mass arrests of thousands of people over to doing, 25 arrests, and about 5 of those are going to be felonies. And that's been consistent over the years, that they just choose 5 people and give them felonies. This last weekend on Saturday on No King's Day, we had, upwards of 30 arrests, and 5 of them were felonies. And the Van Nuys police, the Van Nuys jail has been instructed to not give any information to the public defender's office. So this is incredibly intentional. It's incredibly violent. I just saw a recorded audio yesterday of the sheriff saying, "Oh, we're getting hit by rubber bullets." The LAPD and the sheriffs were shooting their ammo so rapidly and indiscriminately into the crowds that they were hitting each other. I've talked to people who have, their friend just went into emergency surgery, a woman who got her ankle stomped on, limped out of the jail after being in there for 12 hours. We've got people who are being beaten and trampled by, and, from cops on horses and being trampled by the horses. And, this is right out of fascist playbook to repress immediately any assembly and community that is happening. So
And this is
it's
the
very, very
LAPD,
intense.
right? This
What
is
was
not
that?
this is not the feds. This is the LAPD.
The feds are here also. And the feds are, so far, they have turned all arrestees except for one over to local enforcement. So we've had a couple people who are arrested by in tuffles with guards, but we do have one person who is still, we have actually two people, but one person in particular who was beaten up by the National Guard, and he's now in police custody. And I do want to, in the chat, we're talking about, let's focus back on police, on voter suppression. It's right, this is voter suppression. I used to work for Greg Palast, and he really focused on these very formal forms of voter suppression. But what we would see like more often was, felons who in the state of California still think that they don't have the right to vote. There's this extreme fear mongering that's happening. People are so scared to go out in the streets. I did a response to an ICE sighting today and passed out some Know Your Rights information in South LA today. And, what everybody has been saying is like, everybody is home. Everybody is so fucking scared to move or breathe or look at a cop the wrong way.
Wow. Well, your proud mother was just with us, Jan Goodman, who has going to talk to us about Pacifica. Terry, you're like my daughter after all these years. And when I heard you were shot, I don't mean to be dramatic, but
Yeah.
So anyway, we're glad you're okay. And
Maybe-
were you out for No King's Day?
I was out there giving information about jail support. I walked the entire perimeter of the protest. It was really great. There was so many people out. And what's really unique about this wave of protests and this moment that's happening is that, or this movement that's happening, is that there are people from so many different factions of life that for their whole lives had said, I am not political. I'm so sorry if I cursed. Many people who are coming out in the streets today, like, you've got the white girl down the street Googling Molotov cocktails who never in her life has thought that she's going to be a political or radical person. So it's been really cool to see all of these communities coming together.
Right. Well, Russell Green told me that at Laurel Canyon and Ventura, which is a sort of a traditional spot for protests, there were 7,000 people.
I believe
mean,
it.
this is just, he said it went for miles up and down. So, to me, the No King's Day, and I'm going to, do you have anything else you want to say, Terry, before I?
I do want to say that.
Might ask her about what's happening with the National Guard and that.
Oh, yeah. So this is Jan Goodman. Jan is Terry's mother. And Jan is one of the great activists of our time who's just run a huge victory at Pacifica Radio that we're going to talk about in the second hour.
So I do want to say this one thing, that it's really easy to go out on No King's Day and protest. And I really want to urge you all to encourage people to do the things that are more boring and less glamorous. And, literally just driving around your neighborhood and seeing if ICE is in the area. At the best, you feel secure that ICE is not in your neighborhood. At the worst, you call a rapid response team in your city, and they're able to handle what they can. Go out and just print out know your rights information on your printer at home, and eat those couple cents and give that back to your community and give people information, because people literally don't know that they don't have to open the door. So I just want to urge you all to really do that boring work that's so necessary right now, when we have, the Gestapo guard in LA, and we have the SS knocking on doors and breaking them down. So that's all I'll say. And if anybody is curious about what's going on in LA with the arrests, you're welcome to message me and ask me any questions.
All right, Terry, put your contact in the chat, if you will. Mom, go ahead.
Wait. Before we get into that, I just want to say something. Indivisible has a whole rapid response team, by the way. So I wonder if they're doing it all over the country. I know they're doing it in the Bay Area.
Very possible.
Yes.
Most cities right now have rapid response teams. It's just about finding them. I would say Indivisible would be a good place to start.
Okay, we've got 89 people with us. 8 hands are up. Jan Goodman, Terry's mom, go ahead, please.
Oh, I was going to say that maybe Terry could talk about where the National Guard are, because if people are interested, or people can ask her questions now for a few seconds, a few minutes.
Did anybody have a question specifically for Terry before she takes off? All right, well, we'll get to it. And Jan, we're going to come back to you.
Yeah,
I don't know where the
come back to
National
me.
Guard are. I will say one thing that, part of this is to celebrate a day in American history where people felt secure to go out, and 5 million people did. And I have to say, Hedy, seeing your family there in Minneapolis, I mean, it was a double dose of courage to come out in Minnesota when at 2 a.m. this madman was running around murdering people. And there were a couple places where they did cancel the rallies, but I assume hundreds of thousands of people came out in Minnesota nonetheless, including, of course, your beautiful family. So thank you for that. Bill Yohe, then. Bill, go ahead, and then Tatanka. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay, hi everybody from Tucson. We have it relatively easy here in comparison to a lot of other stories I've heard. The cops here in Tucson, they're very familiar with demonstrations. I and some of the other people in Indivisible, Southern Arizona, have been doing this for years. So they go, hey, we want you guys to be safe. We want to make sure you can demonstrate, and we do. So we're much luckier than Phoenix. For example, the first one we had, the first demo, we had 16,000 people in April by Reed Park, which is a zoo. And we had, quite a few activists running around. But yesterday, we had about 2,000 people at Reed Park, activists. We had 1,000 people in a car demonstration. And we had pop-ups, actually pop-up demonstrations in Tucson. It was amazing. You go by a corner, go, oh my God, what's going on here? There were people demonstrating and, on the corners, a couple hundred. They weren't small little demonstrations, because a lot of people here in Tucson, which is an area, actually Pima County is larger than the state of Arizona, or rather New Jersey, where I grew up. I know South Orange, Madison's where I grew up. I know all these places. It's quite large, but we're very, very blue here, much more blue than Maricopa, which is Phoenix. But we even had the Ghostbusters car in the demonstration.
Good. Well, we certainly have some.
Yeah, we're trying to find out if there are any ghosts running around that are giving us, problems. But that's basically what I just want to say. Oh, also Army vets that I didn't know, they see my vets. I'm not a veteran, but I have on one of my cars. We're trying to not privatize the VA. And they're going, yeah, I've never demonstrated until today. And I've spent 20 years in the Army. So people are starting to wake up and realize this crazy crap that's going on here is not a good thing. But I'm so lucky that almost all the cops, the actual town council, and the supervisors of the county are all blue for the most part. So we're pretty lucky.
Well, I have to say there was a guy, a MAGA guy, who drove up to the demonstration in Teaneck and started yelling at us, and he called us communists and told us to go home.
Yeah.
So I have to say that when asked, I tell people I'm a vet. I was draft eligible during the war in Vietnam. I did not go to Vietnam, but I did march at the Pentagon, and I did get beat up at the Chicago Convention. So not only am I a vet, but I should have a Purple Heart. But what can I tell you? Bill, thank you for that. Much appreciated. Tatanka, you are in Valley Village, California right now, and then we'll go back to Daniela and Pearly Ray Gates after you first. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Sluggo. A number of things when you were talking about, was it a lost opportunity in the beginning of the show about the QR codes? I want to say that virtually everybody Carol and I talked to, both at Studio City and then up at Pasadena, Pasadena later, and we did most of it from the car, which I'll talk about, is eager to go back and organize their own groups and to get together with people in their neighborhood. But for people who maybe don't know, who weren't involved beforehand, there is a nokings.org site. All the way up through yesterday, you could sign in to say you're going, and they have a post-op event on Zoom or Facebook or wherever it's going to be, because 5 million people are there. I don't know how many people they're going to have on this, but it's 2 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and it's specifically for people who were at the rallies. At least that's how they set it up through yesterday. But you can go to nokings.org and find out everything that's going on if you can't get on that particular call. So one, I'm not very mobile right now with my knees.
Wow.
And haven't been for a while. So I couldn't do a lot of walking. So we did most of our stuff from the car. And what I found, I discovered some things, and people really fed off the energy. But I got a little bored in the beginning. My main number one job was to not run people over, right? I'm driving the car. I'm going close so that I can get the pictures with my right hand. I'm driving the car with my left hand. And we went down every street, and people loved it, okay? But I got bored with my experimenting with different honking. So I went to the mantra that was used in the organizing of this rally. And so I went, bop, bop, let's see, bop, 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 bop. And people just lit up and they started chanting, the people united will never be defeated. It raised it a level. I mean, the hands went higher, the smiles went bigger. And so it just lit, I'm thinking about maybe organizing a honkers club or something. And how many of the movement songs could we recognize with a drum beat or the horn honk, and just a way of organizing. I did take several hundred, I don't know, maybe 1,000 or more photos and videos. So I'm looking forward to getting back to them, because the creativity there, as everybody who was there or even watched online, was fantastic. The various things. So I'm looking forward to putting something together with that. As a musician and a songwriter, that really turned me on. A report from my brother, one of my brothers in Durango, Colorado, not a large community, 2,600 people turned out.
Wow.
All stripes, same thing, different ages, different colors, different politics, really peaceful, wonderful. Report from Bakersfield, from Camila Chavez on Friday morning, the day before, the ICE and the disappearances and the terrorizing of people at school, at home, at work, on the street, at the stores has been constant for weeks and weeks and weeks. So her report on Friday morning, that's just 2 days ago, at 8:45 in the morning, was from 1 a.m. to 8:45 in the morning, she's had 123 pings and counting. Now, she's on a thread, okay? So this is everything ranging from the unmarked trucks and the unmarked cars and the unmarked people, whoever they are, with ICE or the other organizations. We don't even know who they are. We're also showing up at bakeries, libraries, DMV, and the one story that just sent chills down my spine is there is a woman who had done farm work for years, and then got another job that paid more. Finally got her license on Friday. I mean, not her license, her citizenship. She passed citizenship. And she walked out of the government building, and there was a black van there. She was thrown in the van. She has one teenage daughter who doesn't know where she is. Nobody knows where she is now. That's the kind of thing that is really the agenda of Trump, okay, and the administration and Project 2025. So on Saturday, she said ICE was nowhere to be found. It was a wonderful demonstration, okay? But the other 6 days of the week, you have the disappearance going on and just the fear spreading, et cetera. Anyway, I've got other things to say. Other people have stuff to talk about. I want to hear.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Tatanka. And that's a terrifying story, really terrifying. We appreciate it. Pearlie Ray Gates has not spoken yet, so let me get you. We're at 3 o'clock, but we're going to continue. I will say one thing, and this is important in my world anyway, is that there were 2 rallies called on No King's Day. One was Trump's in Washington at the military parade, and anybody who's seen the footage from that military parade, there was nobody there. I mean, the stands were empty. Apparently, there's an official photograph of the stands for the spectators of the military march, and they are empty. And Trump is trying to suppress that photograph. And meanwhile, the No King's Day drew 5 million people everywhere, from 400 in Teaneck, New Jersey to 7,000 on Laurel Canyon in California. I mean, you couldn't have had a bigger turnout. It was like, you can't have everything. Where would you put it? If there was a bigger turnout, there would have been nowhere to go. So the question now is, clearly the people are not with this fascist takeover, but the question is, how do we translate it into an electoral victory? And we're going to start with that in a little bit, but we're going to have next week is going to be totally devoted, at least the first hour, to dealing with election protection, which is where these calls started. But if we can't, we clearly have the people are not in favor of this fascist takeover. I mean, the principal difference at this point in time between Hitler and Trump is that the German people apparently supported the Nazi takeover, but they're not supporting the MAGA takeover. But it doesn't matter if we can't get control of the government through an election. And clearly, the machinery is in place to again steal purchase 2026. So that's our agenda going forward. Meantime, let's enjoy this. I love seeing my Abby Hoffman shirt. Pearlie Ray Gates, go ahead, please, Pearlie.
Okay, I have, the report from Austin is that the police estimated 10,000 plus for No King's Day. And the organizers thought it was closer to 20,000. It was a phenomenal turnout. It was real hot, but everybody had a great time, everything peaceful. Anyway, I don't want to talk a lot. I would love to share an audio file that I was asked to perform. I wrote a song called He Walked Through the White House, which was starts out about Elon Musk and ends up as a call to action and talks about.
Can you post the link in the chat?
I can
we
post.
Have a hard time. If you can post the link in the chat to it, that would be really great.
I already did that.
Okay, good. So direct everybody to it, and
if it's on
hopefully
YouTube, we'll get banned. So we can't have YouTube. But if it's your personal video, then it's different.
It's just an audio file on SoundCloud.
Okay.
So is it copywritten? Well, you're not going to sue us, so maybe it's okay, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to sue you.
How long is it?
2 minutes.
Well, can we do like 10, 15 seconds, give everybody a taste, and then go to the link?
Yeah.
Because we got 10 people lined up.
Okay.
Okay, Steve, if you can do that, go ahead.
Yeah, she can do it. She can do it.
All right, go ahead. And then
Oh, stop. Okay, let's go. Here we go.
Oh, he walked through the White House with the greatest of ease. He had the president down on his knees. Agencies gutted, the cuts were aimed true. Goes to show ya what 1/4 billion can do. He removed regulators, his enemies by name, regardless of damage and causing great pain. 'Twas for the tax breaks, for the wealthy, the few. Goes to show ya what 1/4 billion can do. Ah, but he swung too high, now he's fallen from grace. He's off the high perch and back in his place, with Tesla stocks tanking, his business screwed. Goes to show ya what good demonstrations can do. And for the next 100 days, with the people's voices raised, things will change.
Beautiful, beautiful.
So where's all this going? We'd sure like to know. Who's writing the script now? Who's running the show? Who's standing up to the dictator's coup? It's millions of people who know what to do.
Wow, that's great, Pearlie.
All right. We'll protest in non-violent ways.
Thank you. That is really great. The link is on the chat. Fantastic, Pearlie. Thank you so much for that. And that was in Austin. It must have been a ton of fun to be in Austin. But I gotta say, one thing about the No Kings Day is we showed that when our culture, as it were, has a day, everybody has fun. I mean, the T-neck march was a gas. You know, it was really great. And Daniela, thank you again, Pearlie Gates, for that. Daniela, can you read us your 1-minute poem?
It's actually less than a minute, but I want to say quick, I'm near Delaney Center, where the people who were incarcerated broke out. 4 or 5 of them ran away and got away, right near Newark, where Ross Baraka was arrested. The mayor of Newark was arrested a few miles from me, and we still have that councilwoman indicted. So the Delaney Center is a horrible place. It was so horrible. All the prisoners leaned on a wall and it broke because they weren't getting food and water. So they ran out, a bunch of them. Anyway, this poem won a contest among many poems. And it's inspired by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, because we were trying to reclaim Flag Day on Saturday. Liberty and justice. As a schoolgirl, I put my hand over my heart to pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America before I learned about the stealing of native lands, history of slavery, hatred toward immigrants. We pledged allegiance at the start of every school day in the classrooms of Newark and Irvington, New Jersey, where the so-called colored kids were put in back rows where teachers always parked them. The flag hung from a pole over the dusty blackboard in the corner of the crowded room where we learned our ABCs. One day, lost on my way to school, I wandered from the Italian and Jewish ghetto into the black one. There, I saw tired old men sitting dejectedly on dilapidated porches, broken windows with torn shades. But no one bothered me. They just looked at me as if to say, "Why are you walking here, little white girl?" Our Pledge of Allegiance always ended with one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, with liberty and justice for all.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mimi. A song and a poem This is so grand. This is every day should be no King's Day. Well, every day is no King's Day. What the hell, you know?
Can I say what we really need to do next in 1 minute? There's a clause in the big, bad, ugly, horrible bill, page 153, which will neuter the courts. And the courts are all we have working for us lately because the DOJ is so corrupt. And we could be calling about 6 Republicans who are dubious about the bill, mainly because it will balloon the national deficit by over 2.4 trillion or more and bankrupt the world. Elon Musk is right about going against the bill for that reason. He's a better economist, as horrible as he is, than Donald Trump. And so it's real. We could be spending our days now, because this hasn't passed the Senate yet, calling these 6 or so Republicans who are worried about the ballooning of the national debt and who aren't paying attention to page 153, which would neuter the courts. And I can give you the names of those guys, and you can
Put their
find out.
names in the chat if you would.
Okay.
Because that way people write them down. Daniela, you're great. It's great. Your poem's beautiful. And Pearlie, thank you for your song. I can guarantee you that David Saltman is not going to sing. You promised, right, David? But what you got? You're in Riverdale, and then we'll go to Daryl Gale.
Well, Harvey, I'm going to be your segue to the Pacifica part of the entertainment, because what you have here, obviously, it's starting to dawn on everybody. You have the makings of a fabulous, once in a lifetime documentary. The footage is all there. You've got in-person commentary, you've got poetry, you've got songs, and you've got the counterpoint between the empty suits in Washington and the millions and millions of people in the streets. This should be Pacifica's first official act. Now that you've taken over the network, get to work, people. Call Dan Okrent and Ken Burns and get these guys to run the thing, or somebody.
Well, you're right. It needs somebody to gather and edit.
It's
the
all right
footage.
here. It's all in front of us. It's public domain. And you can listen. If I were working at CBS, my boss would be saying, "This goes on the air Sunday."
Well, go back to CBS, for Christ's sake.
It doesn't exist anymore.
Okay. Well, that's David Saltman's had a distinguished career in broadcasting. That's a great idea. Steve, can we post a call for all footage from No King's Day and find somebody to cut it up and make it into a doc? What do you think?
There's no question about rights, if that's what you're talking about.
No,
Yeah,
but we got to get our hands on all the footage and all the pictures. God, you're right. It'd be a gorgeous piece of work.
It's already there. It's already been written. You guys wrote it today. You take the transcript from this show, you've got the outline of a script.
I'll send it to you, Dave.
Absolutely.
Well, he almost jumped.
I'm only doing it for $5,000 an hour.
Yeah, so there you go.
You've got a whole staff of volunteers at Pacifica who are currently looking for something to do.
Hey, there you go. Well, Jan Goodman will talk to that, but that's a great idea. We should let's be a center to collaborate, collate as much of the footage and the pictures as possible. There was a march a few years ago. I wish I had documented. So let's do that. Great idea, David. Thank you. Thank you for that.
4 people on stack.
I will be happy to be your behind the scenes advisor. Yes.
Right. Well, as a guy who won an Emmy for a documentary on Woody Hayes, I think you've got great credentials. Daryl Gale and
good friends.
If you charge for your behind the scenes advice, maybe worth a tax write-off.
Behind the scenes advice I don't charge for.
Well, if you'll come down to $4.99 an hour, that would be great. Daryl Gale and then Vanna Colley, please.
Maybe Roger Rappaport might do it.
Hey, that's right. He's a filmmaker. Why not? Daryl, go ahead. Daryl and then Vina. Daryl Gale, are you there?
I'm trying.
You okay?
Unmute.
You good? Yeah.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Okay. Okay. So I live in downtown Los Angeles. We have suffered for 8 days with 5 helicopters 24/7 circling the downtown area, the
Ugh.
Civic Center area. All I did was smell gasoline and see lots and lots of police people. So anyway, I decided to go to No Kings in Pasadena. So I went out to Pasadena where it was clean. I didn't see any police. I didn't see anything other than honking horns and a lot of really cute signs. My favorite sign was "Happy Birthday to everyone except for Donald Trump." And so, and because it was I knew it'd be chaos downtown. So I waited till 6 o'clock and got back on the train. We got on the train and they said, where I live, closest station is Little Tokyo. They said, we're not stopping at Little Tokyo. You're going to stop at the Civic Center. So I thought, oh, okay, stuff should be pretty much done by now. I come out of the Civic Center station. It was total chaos. There was MAGA people in Humvees. There was screaming young people. There was cars screaming at cars. There was tons and tons of police. So I started to just try to get out of there as fast as I can. I got 10 feet and then somebody threw a flashbang and people, which sounds like a gun. So people thought that somebody was shooting. So everybody started running like crazy. I got shoved into a metal gate. Luckily I held on because till 20 people passed me. And then I tried to walk home, which was difficult because all the streets were blocked off and they wouldn't let a little old white lady walk home. I had to go way around. And then I got to an intersection halfway home and I saw, I guess it was ICE, 8 Humvees of guys that said police on the back of their shirt and they're all in black. And they just were going up and down the street. Then I saw tons of motorcycle gangs. It was a nightmare downtown, absolute scary nightmare. I finally got home and hid out. That's it.
Well, thank you, Daryl. That was a counterpoint to most of the festivities, but you made it, and there were tons of people, no doubt about it. Thank you for that. Vina Colley, you're about as far from LA as you can get in Southern Ohio. What was it like down there? And thank you again for that, Daryl. Vina?
Okay, I'm muted now.
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, I want to thank everyone who did show up for that. No King Day is wonderful. And if we could just get half of those people to call into our representatives right now and do away with this new bill, this big, beautiful bill, because it has a lot of bad stuff in it, like taking away Medicare and Medicaid. And they're pushing RICA in this bill just to get the votes for it. So if anyone can call and ask your representatives, do not pass this bill because it's headed to the House. It's a terrible bill.
I put the names of the Republicans we should bird dog in the chat. These are the ones who are doubtful about the bill and might vote no. We only need 4 Republicans to vote no of the big, horrible, big, bad bill. Only 4 Republicans we need, and several of them are upset about it, ballooning the national debt more than they care about Medicare or Medicaid, but we really need to bird dog them on the phones.
Okay. Thank you, Danielle. Go ahead, Vina.
Okay, and I want to thank that lady for that song. It was beautiful in the poem. And I think the people are tired of what's going on in Washington, D.C., and we don't have a king. We're supposed to have a president, and we should take it over. We're tired of all the stuff that goes on in Washington, D.C. In this RICA bill, they pushed the 2 gas diffusion plants in Oak Ridge and Paducah, and the worst facility that's still producing and bringing in waste is the Portsmouth-Piketon gas diffusion plant in Piketon, Ohio. And they left this facility off of the RICA bill to begin with. So we got to stop this bill in Washington, D.C. because they're cutting out a lot of people. And if they cut off their Medicare and Medicaid, what good is RICA going to be for anyone?
Yeah, you're right, Vina. Thank you very much. Were there any marches down there on No King's Day down in Southern Ohio? There must have been some. Thank you. Okay, so Jan Goodman, you've not yet spoken. Do you want to speak now, or do we want to defer to Lynn, Mimi, and Susie, and then come back to you?
I'm either one. I mean, why don't you just finish the
I'll finish the stack. You've heard that song, and then we want to go to Pacifica as
Yeah.
suggested by Dave Saltman.
That sounds like a good idea.
Okay,
Finish the
so
stack.
Lynn, Mimi, and Susie. Lynn Feinerman, go ahead.
Hello. I just wanted to report from Mill Valley, California. We
Cool.
were out there and there were hundreds of cars going by at our intersection between Panoramic Highway and Sequoia Valley Road. And we had, I would say, at least 50 to 60 honks and screams, yay, and hands up and thumbs up. And then we had two negative. One guy from Silicon Valley rode by on his bike and said, losers. and then someone else rode by and stuck her head out the window and said, why don't you all grow up?
Well,
But we know
okay.
Oaktown rules. We know Oaktown rules.
But you
Oaktown
had-
and SF.
You had a crew in Mill Valleys, I'm sure you
Yeah.
must have.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. Okay, thank you. Lynn, Mimi, and then Susie, and then we'll go to Jan Goodman.
Hi, everyone. Thanks again. I wanted to let you all know for signups that it was through Mobilize. And I clicked through to the No Kings wrap-up call, and it also was on Mobilize. And I've organized events through Mobilize as well. I just wanted to tell you all really quickly, and thank you. Someone gave a report of San Jose in the chat. I was there as well. There were families, there were children, there were tables giving out, there were people giving out water and snacks. And one table called Sun, that Solidarity Unity Network, had legal advisors there for people who needed legal advice. And then finally, what's going on in Los Angeles with the National Guard? I don't think Dennis Bernstein is on the call, but he covered it in one of his shows recently. And I'm sorry, I was driving. I didn't hear who it was, but okay, so according to national statistics, the National Guard is half women, okay? And also a quarter people of the global majority. Here in California, we're a majority minority state, right? So-called minority majority state. And in LA, the National Guard is all white men, mainly white men. We need to get them out of Los Angeles and out of our state. We were talking about white supremacy earlier. This is very troubling to me, and I'm very sorry for all of our friends in LA. And again, forgive me, I was driving. I didn't catch who Dennis Bernstein was interviewing sometime last week, but that investigative reporter said that they would investigate that more. Why, it wasn't representative of the National Guard, because apparently a lot of single women sign up for National Guard to have that second job. So thank you so much, Sluggo. Thanks, everybody.
Well, that's interesting, Mimi. Very interesting. Susie Goldmacher. Susie, are you unmuted?
Yeah. I just want to tell you something really fast. My brother just sent me an email. The New York Times just published his comment about this past Saturday. And because he lives in a senior residential place, and so he wrote about it, and he said there were 700 people in resistance to Trump, and they published it. It's great. And he also talked about the voter registration is very important this year. We have to keep doing it. And he also talked about economic boycotts and from dictatorship to democracy. If those people in the group haven't read it, we should all read it. It's really important. That's it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Susie. Very, very good. Okay. So listen, Alex Williams and Nina Singer have joined, but we have Jan Goodman and Myla Reeson, both from Pacifica. And since there's no king, we'll come to you, Alex, and Nina, please stick with us. But since the No King's Day was such a joyous confirmation that the country is in a very different place than the dictator in the White House, It's an incredibly important moment, actually, extremely indicative of where the heart of the country really is. The question is now, how do we translate it into electoral power? But we also finally may have a liberated radio network, thanks to two people who are right with us here, Jan Goodman and Myra Reason. And Jan has put out a beautiful piece. Jan, I hope you'll post the link in the chat to what you wrote about what has happened at Pacifica. And if you and Myra can take it and explain to folks what's been happening. And by the way, the suggestion from Dave Saltman of doing a photo documentary of some kind on Saturday's march is really, really a great one. And Steve, we can maybe talk about collating all the visuals, or if anybody wants to jump in as a project, a filmmaker or a photo documentarian, pulling together, maybe a 20-minute documentary of the visuals of No King's Day. I got to say, I saw a lot of the signs, and a lot of them are really funny. So it's worth it just for that. But go ahead. There you
Well,
go. All right.
Harvey, before we jump to Pacifica, I just wanted to my friend EJ sent this photo from upstate New York. He is a proud member of a nation. I don't have it on the tip of my tongue here, so I'm
The
gonna
Haudenosaunee, the Iroquois.
Right. Which thank you. They changed their name from Iroquois to, say it again, Harvey?
Haudenosaunee. It's the other way around. They were originally the Haudenosaunee, which means people of the Longhouse. And then the French called them Iroquois, which is actually a put down. And so now they've changed it back to Haudenosaunee.
So he was my neighbor in Santa Monica, and he has moved back to upstate New York. So
Cool.
there it
Cool.
is. And I'll stop this share. And I was at the protest in Santa Monica where there were some great signs mocking Stephen Miller, who went to high school just about a mile from where I live.
Well, we got to collate all the great, funny signs from this march, because I saw 10 or 15 that made me laugh. But here we go. So Jan Goodman, the lead attorney and co-founder of New Day Pacifica. We've talked a lot about Pacifica on these calls. We're in desperate need as a culture for a radio media network to carry the message of peace, love, and rock and roll. Can you tell us where we have come to at this great moment?
Well, so just as a tiny bit of background, I think that probably a good percentage of people on the call know about Pacifica and know about New Day Pacifica, but I just very briefly to say that Pacifica is an independent network of listener-sponsored radio with five major stations around the country, and we have 200 affiliates also who utilize our programs, and we also utilize some of their programs. And the Pacifica started into a downward spiral when they lost funding from the what's it called? CPB, Corporation for Public Broadcasting. So they lost their funding long before now. So that put a dent of $1 million into their budget and sent Pacifica spiraling down. And then there was another judgment against Pacifica of more than $2 million, putting Pacifica in more than $2 million of debt with no plan to recover it. And as a result, it started people thinking, like, how are we going to get out of this situation? And the important takeaway from that is that a number of us realized that the problem was not the just personalities and people working against each other, but really was more structural, and that the whole structure of Pacifica needed to change. The bylaws that created that structure needed to change. And so in 2021, there was a movement, and followed by a referendum to change the bylaws. And as a result of that, there was finally a vote on the referendum, and the New Day bylaws passed, but there was a problem because the establishment at Pacifica said, no, it didn't really pass because the majority of staff didn't vote yes.
Well, let me just jump in real quickly and say that as someone who's written 6 books on election theft, there was a stolen election in 2019 and 2021, and we have spent the last 4 years trying to pull Pacifica out of that miasma. And with this a new set of bylaws, Jan and others has apparently we've turned the corner in Pacifica, and we became famous for our completely dysfunctional meetings and structure. And now we have, I believe, thanks to Jan and Myla and others, a structure that will work. So let's take it from there.
Yeah, so we now have a new structure, and and part of it has gone into effect already, but the larger segment of it will not actually go into effect until 2026. Actually 2027. There'll be a new elections in 2026, and then the bylaws will really change. And the change in the structure, and it's starting to happen now, but it's going to take a while to get it going, is to unravel the very intertwined, crisscrossing lines of authority, and giving the executive director of Pacifica the ability to hire and fire general managers and program directors that are actually competent and capable of running part of this multi-million-dollar network. And so what we need right now, by the way, part of this downward spiraling created a total loss, an almost total loss of KPFK in Los Angeles. We have lost our building, and we have gone from 35 full-time employees to about 8. And so we need, and basically we need fundraising, we need outreach, we need people who are able to actually run a network, and we need to do fundraising. And so what hasn't been lost is the goal of Pacifica and the will to continue to have an independent truth to power network. And that is a really important thing, because many much more powerful seeming media organizations have gone down, and Pacifica is still here. We need support, financial support. We need people to start listening, and we need to actually build our own network back up. In Los Angeles, we don't even have a news department anymore, but we're utilizing other news from KPFA, where Susie is, Susie Goldmacher is, as our radio network. So I think I've laid out the basics.
So what we need to do, thanks to Jan, thanks to Milo, who've stuck with this year after year after year, is to rebuild the Pacifica network. We have 5 major stations, LA, the Bay Area, Houston, DC, and New York. And we have 200, 250 college and community radio stations. We do not have a particularly strong internet presence, and we need to build a new radio / podcasting internet network of progressive, peace-oriented, democracy-based programming. And we now believe, our meetings were notoriously dysfunctional. People ran screaming and yelling from the meetings, which were screaming and yelling themselves. But nonetheless, we believe we have a structure. We still do have a hardcore that's doing their best to wreck the network, but we have a structure now that we think can work. And if anybody wants to join in with us, the principal need, there's always, of course, a need for money, but what we really need is good, talented, committed people who believe in democracy and basic sanity to get the word out through this media network. It really should be the Pacifica Media Network now, not radio, but not just radio. Myla Reeson, did you want to jump in and add? Myla's been a stalwart. Myla, Jan, and I are all on the Pacifica National Board and on the KPFK local board. Myla, did you want to add something here?
Well, thanks, Harvey. I not really. I think you guys have covered it pretty well, and I was distracted. I apologize.
Well, Jan, can you put the New Day, first of all, put the link. Jan has written a really great overview of what has happened. I got to tell you, by the way, I know it may not register, but what's happened here is monumental. I mean, Jan and Myla have put in thousands of hours. I've put in hundreds of hours to help make this happen. And we are elated with a court decision and the decision of the Pacifica management to move ahead with a workable structure here. And so anybody, if you're game to jump in with us, not only in LA, but elsewhere around the country, there you go. There it is. Thank you, Steve. We are going to build and rebuild a radio and a general media network here to carry the message of peace, love, and rock and roll. So there you go.
So in addition, can I jump in for a second?
Go ahead, and then Myla.
Okay. Oh, Myla, you can go first.
Well, you caught me off guard, Harvey, but I've collected some thoughts, and I just like to say that we have so much potential now with Pacifica, and we have in Los Angeles alone, we have the ability to reach millions of people, and what we need to regain our capacity to be able to cover the vital stories that are not being covered elsewhere. And in order to do that, as Jan was saying, we need people to join us, to help us grow and to reach our full potential.
Good, which is huge.
So along those lines, I please everyone, even if you don't live in a Pacifica
major city
or minor city, please consider going to newdaypacifica.org, and there's a survey there. And part of the survey includes volunteering. So people, who live in Anchorage, Alaska, or, Maine can, for instance, edit programs. In this day and age, you can volunteer and become a very helpful, functional person, even if you don't live nearby. So if you have skills in that regard, please consider filling out that survey, and then at the bottom portion, it has an area that you can volunteer. And you can also listen to the streaming of Pacifica. You can go to kpfa.org, which is in Berkeley, or kpfk.org in Los Angeles, and you can live stream. And we also have podcasts of many, many different things, some very amazing things. So please, even if you don't live in the area, you're looking for something interesting, go to one of our stations, and I will put that in the
Well, I would venture that virtually everybody, we have 70 people still with us, lives in the broadcast area of at least a Pacifica affiliate. Where there's 200 plus affiliates, well, campus and community stations, in addition to the 5 big ones in LA, San Francisco, Bay Area, Houston, DC, and New York. So, wherever you are, there is an affiliate. So please get in touch with New Day. And, we're going to be expanding into the internet and doing our broadcasting, and it's a big deal. God knows we have to have a network, and we've run into every oppositional rubric imaginable, but here we are, and so we have something we can work with now. So thank you, Jan. Thank you, Myla. Anybody, either of you got anything else to say? Well, we go to Alex and then Steve Caruso.
Maybe if anybody has any questions, we can answer any questions. I saw, a question about doing programs with Dennis Bernstein. Dennis Bernstein was appearing on KPFK. He still has his program on KPFA. He was appearing on KPFK. I'm not sure if he is now. They keep changing the grid, so I don't know what it is.
I can jump in here. Flashpoints is Dennis's program, which is heard on KPFA, and also you can find his programs on the KPFA website. They are archived there, but he is no longer heard on KPFK.
Well, we'll get that, but also there's a shift going on, of course, from live radio to podcasting and internet-based communications, and we are hoping to bring Pacifica into a more modern internet-based footing, in addition to the broadcasting. So there we are, and everybody, please take heed to this. It's a big deal. Pacifica has been going since 1947. So there's a very, very deep-rooted reality here, and we're getting to the point where we can have this kind of conversation. Has been blood, sweat, and tears, boy, let me tell you. It's still not 100% over, but we're in pretty good position now, we hope, said he who has not yet heard the bad news. But nonetheless, let's thank Jan and Myla and push ahead. Alex Williams and then Steve Caruso, please. Alex, are you unmuted? And then, well, Steve is unmuted. Go ahead, Steve, and then we'll go to Alex. Steve?
Yeah, definitely there's Pacifica Upload. People, if they sign up for it, they can pull shows down off of that and share them in their local radio stations. That's how that started. Somebody started a low power FM station in Columbus here that's been going on for years. We lost the original program a year or two ago, but she worked her tail off to get that happening. And, with all the suppression going on around the country, this is about the only free speech zone there is. I mean, we need to speak out, and we need to get everybody on board with something alternative besides the corporate dictatorialship that's happening. Thank you.
That's SHIP, right, Steve?
What? That's not supposed to be on the air. Sorry.
Yes, right. Well, you're the gatekeeper here. So anyway, Steve too also has done great work, and they run freepress.org, which runs progressive stuff night and day. Very, very important. So Alex Williams, I'm trying to get you unmuted here.
Tatanka has his hand up.
Tatanka is the chair of the KPFA board, so we'll give him the next round. Go ahead, Tatanka, please.
I think everybody here is peace, love, rock and roll fans, and everybody here knows about Pacifica. These two women here, Jan Goodman and Myla Reason, this is the reason why the station has been able to go through this, come out the other end, and survive. These are the people that really did the work, do the work behind the scenes, in addition to showing up like this. So I want to say thank you on behalf of everyone who in the Pacifica listening audience. They should know who really shows up and walks the talk. Thank you.
Thank you, and you're 100% right. Staggering. And Jan started in on this one with her husband, Jerry MANPEARL, and they are the mom and dad of the great Terry, who spoke to us before. So it's quite moving, actually, to be able to have this conversation. And there are people who are gnashing their teeth at our ability to do this. But and Tatanka's been a big part of it as the chair. I was briefly the chair. I could never, of the KPFA board, I could never do with, it was a question, it was a choice between suicide and homicide. And so far we've gotten through it. So
Logo, I want to say that as a lifelong peace and social justice advocate, serving on the board has given me a wonderful opportunity to diligently practice nonviolence. Really,
right.
to practice respect and carry things forward. And it's, hey, it works. I mean, it's
Right.
either, as King said, it's either nonviolence or non-existence. And we all want to live. The earth wants to live. We want to live. So I choose to think that the whole universe, there's no separation in the universe. And what the consequence of that means is that solidarity is built into our DNA. If we get out of our own way, we can build this thing back together. Thank you.
Right. And it's always good to talk the talk of nonviolence and tolerance and all that stuff, but it's never tested more than in Pacifica meetings. And Tatanka and Myra and Jan have always been able to get through it. Me, like, anyway, so okay. Heidi has not spoken, and we'll go to Daniela. Heidi, go ahead, please. We still have 68 people with us. Oh, you're up there. Heidi, I unmuted you. Come on, there. Heidi.
Hello?
Yeah, hi.
Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Okay, great. I'm in my car, so I'm like trying to run this from a car. At any rate, I'm just curious to know where in Maine can we get a Pacifica station? Is WMPG part of it? Because if it is, I used to be a host of a panelist on a radio show there.
There is no per se Pacifica station there. If you're in Maine, you can tune in via the internet to any of the stations. I put them all in the chat. But the closest one would probably be New York, wbai.org. But better to go to like KPFA or KPF.
What about WERU? Because that's up in Blue Hill.
Right. Heidi, there are over 250 affiliate stations that are
I'll look it up.
affiliated with Pacifica. And your station in Maine may well be one of those stations that is part of a grassroots radio network that is affiliated with Pacifica. And there is a map and a list that I don't have access to right this minute, but there's a good chance that
we have a great affiliate director named Ursula.
Ursula,
and
yes.
the affiliates are very, very powerful. And just for those of you interested, I mean, the two big, I guess, stars that we have who are franchised through us is Tom Hartman and Amy Goodman. They're carried by Pacifica everywhere. Myla, go ahead.
Well, the affiliate stations do send representatives to the Pacifica National Board.
Yes.
And so go ahead, Harvey.
No, go ahead. We also carry a wide range of commentators, through the podcasting and broadcasting. But it's not hard to find pacifica.org and the listing of the affiliates. It's a great thing. And
Actually, I'm going to put I'll put a link to the interactive map. But if you just so that in case you can't find it, find in case
There
you're
you
not
go.
looking at your computer, it's pacificanetwork.org. And if
Okay.
you can, pacificanetwork.org/stations-2, and that will, you click on it and find all the various affiliates. But I'll put that in the
Oop, there was one in Maine that went by.
Oh, cool. Well, I was going to say that Maine's a little too cold for us, but we actually have affiliates in Alaska as well. So
Well,
there must be somebody in Maine that you can, yeah, in here,
yeah,
Blue
because
Hill,
we've got
Maine.
Susan
Blue
Collins
Hill,
and
Maine.
Angus.
Blue Hill.
That's WERU. Awesome. I'm friends with one of the news directors there.
Well, come on down,
So
get involved.
I
There you
will
go. And
try
this
to
is
get plugged
typical.
into that.
I don't think there's a
Actually,
state. I don't think
huh?
there's a state I doubt there's a state in the US that does not have at least one Pacifica affiliate.
Oh, cool. Well, do you know who owns that one?
Salt
No.
Hill.
No, it's Noel Paul Stuckey is WERU. And
Oh,
he
for Peter, Paul, and
was,
Mary?
you got it.
Yeah. Cool. All
So
right. Very good.
he
Very
was
good.
my
Thank you.
neighbor when I was a kid.
Heidi, good to
So
hear from you. Thank you.
anyway,
Thank you. We'll look forward to
I'll try to plug into that. That sounds like a lot of fun.
right. And be sure when you get on there to cook up some lobster. Um,
No, we just released some.
Yeah.
All right, Daniela, and then we're going to go to Murtaza.
Well, I
Daniela?
just want to quickly say that
Saltman.
WBAI is here in New York and it reaches throughout New Jersey as well. And I used to do tons of programs, whole series of programs with Dennis Bernstein on WBAI through the 70s and the 80s. But I wonder if any of you have heard of Midas Touch. It has 4 million followers. It's extremely progressive and it's on YouTube. And that's where the action is these days, on YouTube. Midas Touch is terrific. It's very progressive. And so I think if we can get somehow more onto YouTube, I have a YouTube channel which has a lot of followers. I think that's where the action is more these days than on the radio. What do you think?
Well, people still do listen to the radio, but you're right, a YouTube, and we have to get, Pacifica needs to get a presence on YouTube. We need to, up our game here, and we can finally, after all the mishigas with the crazy structuring, hopefully we'll be able to do that. So thank you for that, Danielle. Very good suggestions. We're going to go to Murtaza, and then Alex has come back with us, and then Dave Saltman. So Murtaza, please, and then Alex, and then David.
Hi, thanks. I partly want to echo the previous speaker, and also just, I have a kind of a broader question on what's the target, like what's the audience goal? Do you want people who are checking in every day? You want people who are coming in for like weekly analysis? I guess it depends on the content that you're carrying. But I'd be
Right.
curious to know more about how, how do we tell people that this is what you get on the network? What is why should they go to this network? I'm trying to understand that better.
Okay, so each of the stations is quite different and unique. For instance, KPFK has much more of a focus. KPFA in Berkeley and KPFK in Los Angeles have much more of a focus on public affairs. And if you listen in from about 8 o'clock until 11 o'clock in the morning, it's excellent public affairs. There's Amy Goodman, there's news, there's news and analysis up until 11. But in Washington, D.C., their focus is jazz and justice. So they play a lot of music and they also play news. So each station is different. But one of the big things that ties them together is that they have independent news that is not beholden to anyone. We don't, it's people.
We're not corporate sponsored.
It's not. It's totally listener sponsored. So the target audience is for, I would say, the independent listener, and we play music that's independent music that's, as they say, around the corner and around the world.
Around the world and around the block.
Around the world. It was like not coming in. Yes, around the world and around the block. So there's independent music. So it's the independent listener who doesn't want to be pigeonholed into what corporate radio, even corporate sponsored NPR stations. It's free of even the oil companies. Greg Palast used to call it the National Petroleum Radio. And I myself, I switch back and forth between NPR and KPFK. And by the way, with regard to whether or not, where we really are is YouTube or podcasts or radio, I think there is a place for all of those. When the internet goes down, radio is still there.
True.
So
and vice versa.
And the vice versa. Sometimes the radio can go down. Did I answer your question, Murtaza? Not very well, probably.
No, you're good. That's good. Although I shouldn't speak for Murtaza, and he is now muted, so I gotta unmute him.
Yeah,
Let's-
just say you can go online and you can look and see the shows every day. You can see the music shows, you can see the Spanish broadcasting, you can see it all there. So it's very diverse on
Right.
KPFK.
And the good news is the station in DC is very focused on jazz. So if you want to go to Pacifica and listen to jazz, you just go to WPFW in DC, and there it is. So and my Solartopia show with MAGA has been on and off. We're off right now, but hopefully we're getting back on. And it's been a schlep, boy, but here we are. Thank you,
Just
Murtaza,
another-
Alex Williams,
oh.
and then Dave Saltman.
I just wanted, just another thought is, I think somebody brought up Midas Touch. There's also the Majority Report with Sam Cedars. There's a bunch of other podcasts, and often what they do is like crossovers. So maybe Majority Report or somebody would be willing to do, if you delay it a week to their normal, like some analysis, like if they have some good analysis they want to share, they might put it on the network. And so that way you guys can help each other build audiences. It's just a thought. I think Midas
Yes,
Touch could do something like that too.
You sound like a likely volunteer to join in, Murtaza. So go to the website and sign
I'll
up.
I'll sign up. I don't know how much time I have, but I'll try.
Hey, any time is good time.
Welcome, Murtaza.
Alex Williams, please.
Can I
and then
just
Dave
say,
Saltman.
Murtaza, I'm sorry, but I have to just thank Murtaza for bringing up the Majority Report, because I've got to tell you, that is one of my go-to almost every day. Sam Cedar, Emma Vigeland do some of the best reporting on what's going on in the world, and I really rely on them to understand legislation, world events. Today, Sam had an amazing interview with someone from the Peace Institute about what's going on between Iran and Israel, and it's just it's a phenomenal show, the Majority Report. So I just had to say thank you for shouting that out, Murtaza.
Okay. I'm trying to unmute Alex Williams. We've had this trouble before. Oh, there you go. Go
Oh.
ahead, Alex, and then Saltman.
You hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to call in about the protest, and but since you mentioned, because I'm here in the DC area, Rockville.
Cool.
And, yeah, when I commute to work, it's gotten to the point where I just automatically go to Democracy Now! It's just WPFW.
Right.
And the jazz lead in, which on Tuesday, I really like jazz lead in. But anyway, yeah, there was a lot of activity here. There was demonstrations in Silver Spring and another one in Bethesda, right across from the Fox News. That's where the centerpiece was. They didn't let us in, but people were honking their horns and lots of signs. And I just realized something, that the soldiers, and I think we got to remember that the National Guard is pretty much us, local people. And but this is like the regular army down there at the Nazi parade. Anyway, they protested. I didn't even realize it until the day after, because I was in the army and I looked at the video and I didn't pay attention to it, but nobody was in step.
No, I noticed that too. I think what happened was that the National Guard, before they marched in Washington in front of Trump, they all dropped acid. I mean, it really looked like that. They weren't marching, man. They were ambulating. I mean, that was really.
Yeah. I didn't even notice that at first.
Well, we haven't mentioned what happened to the National Guard in LA. They were sleeping on the floor with no food and water. When Trump called them in, he didn't provide any way for them to sleep or eat or drink even water. So he's learned a lesson that he can't just call them in anywhere without food and water and no bedding. And that was amazing.
He didn't want to have to pay for it. Yeah, that was I thought it was very funny to watch those guys walking down the street.
I didn't really catch it until later. And it was like, because most of those units that marched in the parade, they were like regular army. They wasn't guard for most of them. And I didn't buy that they didn't know what they were doing, because I mean, that's like, like kindergarten stuff, marching. And so it's like it had to be a finger to the Fuhrer. It had to be. And
that's a great phrase, a finger to the Fuhrer. We got to write that one down.
And also, they couldn't have done it, and it wasn't just privates and sergeants and whatnot like that. It had a higher command, at least up to a certain level, had to say, "Oh, go ahead, don't bother." Just
well, but you got to. In fairness, you got to remember that Trump was asleep.
Well, yeah, that too.
He slept through a lot of that.
What was he?
Yes. So was Melania. They were sleeping up there. I think
I
Trump
boycotted watching it because I didn't want to increase the audience.
Well, no, I mean, he was taking a nap and he kept trying to hold Melania's hand and she wouldn't let him. I mean, it was something else.
Yeah, it was
Alex, you got anything else?
No, just that, like I said, there were lots of, I think there were more people out around in this area in demonstrations than there were, because there was one right here in Rockville, which is the usual place where they have it, which is in front of the Tesla dealer. But
that's over.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that Tesla dealer will not be there in 2 years. They're going to be out, man.
Yeah.
They can't.
So, Alex, would you would put your contact information in the chat or send it to me, because I would really like to get in touch with more people in Washington, or to be in touch with them about the station there.
Yeah, Alex, we need you on the board there.
Yeah, I'm going to put my phone number. You could text me if you wanted.
Okay. Salty, you wanted to
And my
jump in
email
again?
address.
I got my email in the chat.
Okay, I'll put it in the chat. And it's
Mike-
easy to
Mike Hirsch
recognize
is on
because it says jangoodman.kpfk@gmail.com.
Mike Hirsch is on the board at WPFW.
Yeah, he is.
He's usually here, but he had to leave early, so.
Oh.
yeah, so we're really trying to get in touch with people in Washington who are listeners especially.
Dave Saltman, Salty?
Well, just further evidence for my case that you're writing the script for this documentary tonight. I mean, Trump was asleep. The soldiers were out of step. I mean, it's priceless. You couldn't hire a Hollywood cast of thousands to do this. You know,
Some ICE didn't come and arrest Melania.
so,
Without immigration, Trump would have no wives.
Well, one out of three. He wouldn't have a mother. She was from Scotland.
Well, his parents came from Germany. They
grandfather
kicked
was
them
from
out of
Germany.
town.
The grandfather ran whorehouses in Germany.
And then there's that, what's his name, Musk. I mean, come on, you know, he's in. Well, of course, Steve Bannon wants Musk deported. I got to hand to him.
But I actually really wanted to give you guys some real practical ideas with named addresses and phone numbers for how to staff up KPFK, where to get your news from, and how to raise money.
Okay, I'll call you up, David.
Well, David used to be on KPFK.
No, I'm going to give it to you right now.
No, Dave, you can't.
That's a trade secret.
We're almost out of time.
Okay.
You and Jan, you and Jan and I need to get together.
I was news director of KMET in Los Angeles. I faced all these problems. There is a group right now in LA called Typewriters Unlimited. It's a comedy team. I've talked to them about it. You want to talk to the guy named Philip T. Nails.
Wait a minute. What's his name?
This is live
Philip
over the.
T. like Tom Nails. They're wonderfully funny. They're totally brilliant, and they're very retro, and they love Pacifica. I've talked to them about it. I told them we'd be having this conversation when you guys won your court case. So now call them up. I'll give you the number if you need it. And when I was running KMET, we started by hiring a comedy troupe. I don't know if you go back in LA this far, called The Credibility Gap.
I remember.
Harry Shearer was one of our newscasters.
Oh,
we got to get Harry Shearer, David. You got to get it to Harry
yes.
Shearer. We need to
You
connect
call
with
Philip
Harry
T.
Shearer.
Nails, and I'll call Harry Shearer.
That's my Sunday
it.
church. Harry Shearer is my Sunday church. I listen to him from my church.
Harry Shearer, he is the greatest, man. And I heard somewhere they were going to do a sequel to Spinal Tap. I hope it's true.
Tony Hendricks died. How could you do it?
Those aren't the side effects. Those are the effects.
Well, Rob Reiner and Harry Shearer around, they could do it. You know, I think the sequel to Spinal Tap will be called Colostomy Bag, but that's a whole. Anyway, we're almost out of time.
Okay, anyway,
let's see. We got Melissa, and then we'll go run through Mimi and Nancy, Heidi, and one with you, Tatanka. This has been so much fun. This is one of our most fun calls. I knew it would be. But you know, look, 5 million people in the streets versus 50 at Trump's march. Give me a break.
Got to pyramid that with KPFA, with Pacifica. You can
Absolutely. Absolutely. Melissa Richardson, go ahead, please, Melissa.
Thank you, guys. And I listen to NPR. I tried to find a Pacifica station, but the closest one to me is Bisbee, and I don't go that far. So I listen to NPR and BBC. And for No King's Day, I just basically left nasty messages for my senators because I couldn't go out in 113-degree weather in Tempe.
Well, listen, we're glad to have you with us, and I'm sure your nasty messages were truly memorable.
Yeah.
Mimi, Nancy, Heidi, and then we'll go to Tatanka. Melissa, thank you for coming with us. Mimi?
Hi, sorry. I think your show should look more into the Rockland County lawsuit and New York State. A judge has called for that lawsuit to go forward because there was a lot of incorrect undervoting, right?
Right.
There were lots of votes for Senator, I'm going to say her name wrong, and she was a classmate, Gillibrand, and and a lot less for Kamala Harris, which
No,
rarely happens. So
there's a
please.
major piece up on the internet, and there's no doubt that the 24 election was stolen or
Oh, I
purchased.
know. Oh, I know. And
And
I
we
thank
need to
you
deal
for
with it.
having, I thank you for having Greg Palast on many
I'm
times.
gonna get him again. I'll get
Okay.
Greg back, and we'll do next
I mean-
week. We're gonna do the deep dive now on election protection, because that's where it's at. We know now that we have a majority of the country behind us. Thank God this isn't Germany in 1933, where Hitler had popular support. Trump does not. And so, but we have to translate that so that Elon Musk and his buddies can't buy the next election. That's what we're about now.
And
Mimi, thank you for that.
I haven't seen Democracy Now! Today or anything else, so I don't know if it's been picked up nationally. This was told by a friend of mine who lives in New York State. So thank you so
No,
much.
I saw
That's
an article
Rockland.
about it. I
Oh,
saw an
excellent.
article about it. Yes, it's
Excellent.
out.
So that was Rockland County, and I put the Newsweek article in the chat. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. And this whole Leonard Leo thing, we're going to proceed with all that. Nancy, Dr. Nancy, Heidi, and then Tatanka, and then it's time to toke up. Go ahead,
Hi,
Heidi.
I turned on the parade on and off, and I think you missed mentioning that the squeaking, not only were they out of step, but the squeaking of the wheels on the road was so distracting. There weren't enough
I was gonna
people
say that.
making enough noise to cover it up.
Yeah, there was nobody in the stands. He's suppressing the pictures that show the stands were empty. It was the same as his inaugurations. Nobody showed up there either.
And
And
no
they
one
showed
will
up at
say how many people there were. I think it
No.
was just hundreds.
Yeah,
Well, there
well,
were
maybe.
more people there than there were at the inauguration. At
Yeah.
Obama's inauguration, your lying eyes are deceiving you. But
Why
I
believe your eyes? Why believe your own eyes when you can believe Donald Trump?
so I actually was
The,
told
Ro- the Rockland County lawsuit
I was
involving
told
the 24
Election, yeah.
election.
so I
Yeah,
was
it's-
told that Craigslist by a friend who said her friend saw it. So who knows if it's really true? But on Craigslist, they were recruiting people for the parade for $1,000 a person.
I
Oh,
saw
man,
an ad.
I
I
missed it.
saw an ad for $80 a person.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, there you go.
Right.
Maybe
And all the
1,000.
pot you can smoke. Okay, Heidi, and then thank you,
Do
Nancy.
you want to? Okay, never mind. I can wait.
Well, no, go ahead because we're out of time. So
No,
figure it out.
you wanted me to go through the criteria for a narcissistic personality, but we can wait.
Can you do it in 3 minutes?
I can do anything in 3 minutes.
Go for
Pervasive
it.
pattern.
Well, well,
Okay.
then paint my house. Go ahead.
This is a psychiatric diagnosis of a narcissistic personality disorder, which I was kind of dismissing when people kept mentioning it because whatever. But I looked it up today, and here it is. 5 of the next 9 things. Number 1, a grandiose sense of self-importance. Number 2, preoccupation with fantasies. Number 3, a belief in uniqueness. Next 5, need for excessive admiration. Anyone you know? Sense of entitlement, exploitive behavior, lack of empathy, envy or belief of being envied, arrogance or haughty behaviors.
Sounds good to me, Nancy. We'll come back to that next week. Thank you so much for that. Steve actually, Caruso raised his hand, Heidi, and then Tatanka, and then we're done. Still have 48 people with us, for God's sakes. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, here's a new market opening up. They're shutting down Radio America in Europe. So, and what about using AM radio for Pacifica Network that has a farther reach? I mean, I get stations from Philadelphia here and Toronto and stuff like that. 24/7 AM radio going miles out. And Midas Touch is okay, Daniela, but there's a lot more out there that's happening. In fact, Jessica Denson left might have touched, because they wouldn't touch the fact that Trump was a 14-3 insurrectionist and shouldn't have been allowed to go into office. But, and including Congress and all the other insurrectionists that were out in public being who they are. So, thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Heidi, and then Tatanka, and then we go. Heidi, are you muted? Yes, you are. There, go ahead.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, no, I just wanted to chime in about the fact that I'm wondering if anybody has thought about what Melania was thinking about in terms of, where she
Dinner.
was
She was
from
she was
being
thinking
from
about dinner.
She doesn't care.
But the other thing is that I just wanted to make sure that when you put this video together, this documentary thing, that you make sure that Angus King is mentioned. He's an independent here in Maine, and he actually showed up to our town in Freeport, Maine. I didn't see it, but I've seen it on the TV. So
there you go. Was he pissed that you were saying no king?
no, but I think he was glad to be there.
All right, good for him. Well, we still have Queen. We still have Queen, but kings are a different story. Thank you for that, Heidi. Okay, Tatanka, you get the last word here.
Well, I want to thank David Saltman. He knows of what he speaks when he's talking about what should happen with this. And Alex, your description of the National Guard, and other people have commented, it's an old labor technique. It's the slowdown. I mean, when I saw the videos of it, I immediately thought of workers in the field. It's just a slowdown. It's what they can do under those circumstances. So we see the opposition everywhere. Now, we not only have the documentary, we have the documentary of the documentary. I mean, talk about free speech radio. I mean, organizing this out in the public on a Zoom call, right?
Take the next right onto Main 231 South.
And then you've got all kinds of, SNL ideas. I mean, talking about Melania, what she's thinking. I mean, you've just got a plethora of material.
Right. All right, so
on Main 231 South.
somebody's about to head out and me, I got another phone call here. But hold on. But I just want to take how many of the National Guard, before they marched on No King's Day, now being 420, how many do you think toked up? I'm going to say 50%. Listen, everybody, this has been really great, as I knew it would be. Next week, we're going to dive in to election protection. No King's Day, I think, was a major turning point in American history, and now we got to really deal with this bill. Everybody's got a call, has been urged, and make sure that this horrible, horrible fascist piece of, tearing up the Constitution doesn't get approved. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. It's 4:20. Thank you, Steve, for engineering, and Jan and Milo and Tatanka for your great work at Pacifica. And no nukes, everybody. Dr. Nancy, thank you for your analysis and all that stuff. And we got to have another march. So let's think of the next No King's Day. We got to have another one of these.
Well, for sure, Labor Day.
Labor Day would be good. Maybe the next step is to call a national strike. Let's talk about that. Clearly, we have the horses to do a national strike after what we saw on Saturday. So let's start.
NoKings.org. You can go there and follow up. And si se puede, yes, we can kick out this would-be king, and we can take back our country.
All right, you guys. No nukes, everybody. We'll see you next week.
No nukes.
In Solartopia.
No nukes.
No nukes. Blessings.
To everybody. What a great way to spend 2.5 hours.
And don't forget about the 8 o'clock call tonight.
Oh yeah, what is that? Go for that again. What is it?
8 o'clock, 8 Eastern Standard Time.
And what is it?
It's the No Kings, the What to Do After No Kings rally.
That's what I'm saying. Go to nokings.org. It'll come up. You can register. And it's 5 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Thank you.
Someone in the chat said it was canceled, and I'm not remembering who.
Well, let's find out.
That's
Don't
what
take,
it is. So you could try to sign up and see if they cancel on you.
no,
They said it was next
Right.
week.
I
Oh,
think
all
you
right.
have to
I
have
think
registered.
maybe that somebody could be, let's at least try to get on, and if not, we could find out that it's gonna be next week or something.
Yeah, I'll be on
Okay.
it. There's a number of people here that'll be on it, so we can report on it.
Well, what to do next is going to be what we do next week. So we'll take it from there. All right,
Yeah.
everybody. See you guys.
Heidi?
Huh? I'm
Where you are?
driving.
Oh, okay. You got your hand up and your mic's on.